Auburn, what is best for the SEC. Are those things the same? You know, I know all those discussions will take place. From a football coach's perspective, the biggest question I would have is just as important as those games are to us, you know, how does the playoff look at it? You know, if you're an SEC opponent and you're really quality and you've won a lot of good games, but you drop two to top teams or a third one, you know, do you still get in? And when the playoff expands, and I think all of those are unknowns. So, you know, ultimately, I think we as coaches just say, hey, give us our marching orders, tell us what it is and what is best for our conference, and hopefully it aligns with what's best for our school. But ultimately, I think it's in the right hands, with it being in the ADs and presidents and obviously the commissioner and his staff. So whatever comes out of that, then let's go do it.
So do you think those discussions will be in the meeting this week? How spirited do you think those discussions about whether to go 8 or 9 will be this week?
I honestly don't think it's going to be real spirited within the coaches' room. I think all will say what I say is, you know, we all can have an opinion in here, but ultimately, you know, our presidents and ADs are going to do what's best for our school. And knowing the coaches that I know in that room, all of us are just, again, we just tell us what we're doing, and then we got to go try to get prepared to do it.
You talked about players reporting back today and getting back going with summer workouts. Do you currently have any football players that are on suspension in regards to, from the university standpoint?
Yeah, we don't comment on individuals, you know, in their stats with any disciplinary issues within our school, and so I really don't have a comment on that.
So would you prefer 8 or 9 games?
Again, what is best for Auburn, and I don't know that I'm the authority to say that. Are you guys going to put us in with 3 losses in the playoffs if we run the table on everybody else? You know, all of those things are what coaches, you know, are going to think about. Is, you know, how do we best position ourselves and satisfy, you know, our fans, and all of that's kind of difficult. But I love coaching in big games, and our players love playing in big games at Auburn. They should. They have in the past, and I want to get that back. So, you know, there's so many unknowns with what's coming in the future. And then, you know, I hadn't even talked about the money stuff and thank God I'm not in those discussions with the TV money and, you know, what that means to each institution. And I think our ADs and presidents will make the right decision along with Commissioner Sankey.
Billy raised kind of a similar topic in terms of the playoff and future scheduling. How do you answer that question though this week when those parties will not be involved in the discussion?
Yeah, I don't think we'll get that answer. And again, that's for us coaches is stuff that weighs on our mind, but it's not going to, you know, we're not going to have the answer to that. And so I think we just revert back to our ADs and our presidents and Commissioner Sankey and his staff. Just give us our marching orders, you know, whatever we decide. I read where Commissioner Sankey, and I hadn't kept up with a lot, but he just said it's time for the plane to land. And I think that we coaches are just kind of the same way, is tell us what is best for our conference. And you'd love for that to align perfectly with what's best for your school, but ultimately we got to do what's best for the conference. And we coaches, we're not going to know the answer to, do we get in the playoff with 3 losses? Do we get in with 2 losses? We'll never know that. So just give us we'll get the answer to that soon, hopefully, and we'll move forward.
Do you think you have an answer on tampering, and do you expect that to be a subject of discussion among coaches this week?
I would expect it to come up. I don't think my answer is yes, I do have my preference and answer. Is it doable in today's time? I would love to see it go back to, you know, players not being able to transfer and be immediately eligible unless the coach leaves or is fired or if they graduate. And I think that eliminates tampering. You know, people not going to come take players if they have to set out. unless it's, one of those two reasons, I think they have a right to do that, but I don't think that will ever happen again. So outside of that, I don't know how you really stop some of the discussions that will take place. And they're happening, they happen a lot of different ways. And I don't know that it's always the school that starts it. And so it's gonna be very difficult, I think, to eliminate that totally, unless you go back to some of the transfer, modifying them, which I don't think it'll ever go back to.
The sport seems to be getting more professionalized by the day, and it's more transactional, whether it's transfer portal, NIL, as you mentioned. And you said that things have changed just so drastically just since you got back into SEC football. In your opinion, are we losing a sense of what college sports is supposed to be about? And how are you wrestling with that now at Auburn, where that comes up daily, all this other stuff that we're talking about here in this room?
So it's an incredible question that's going to probably get me praised by some and criticized by some, but I'm very transparent with it. I am very, very glad that young men, I've been blessed to provide for my wife and children, and got 2 grandchildren on the way, a life because of young men that have done well at, go back to Lambeth, Arkansas State, wherever, Liberty, Ole Miss, Auburn. And so I think it's incredibly good that they can benefit off of some of the blessings that we've all received from our great game. I wish we would have had the foresight to plan better and have a better plan that is within some parameters where the blessings are there, but it's not so transactional. Because I got into coaching for the transformative means, and that's what I witnessed from the coaches that coached me, from my father and the other great coaches that I played for. And so it makes you think and wonder, man, does my way still work, to build culture and team? And when really, in a lot of these transactional deals now, there's really only one side that's really locked in to the process. And that's unnerving and a little concerning. And is it going to change? I don't know. I don't know what the answers would be, but I sure wish it was just really, we coaches just wish, man, it's the same for every single state, every single school, the budget's the same to benefit these players. You just kind of wish that it was more black and white and really cut and dried as to kind of how everybody should operate in this new world. And man, I remember, back when at Ole Miss, when I was at Ole Miss, someone, I don't know who, had the idea of, hey, let's be proactive with this, and let's put in $50,000 a year to an account after the freshman is academically successful, and sophomore give him 75 after that, and then maybe 100 after his junior year. And when he graduates with his degree, that money is sitting there in an account for him to start his life with, whether it's NFL or not. And I think back to all those discussions, and it just makes you think, man, I wish we could have really seen all of this coming and maybe put some parameters around it. But how do they say it? The horse has left the barn now, and how do you change that? That's way beyond my ability to think through, probably. But I do think it's for coaches that have been in it a long time, and I haven't been in the SEC as long as many of the others, but it's a different dynamic to the transactional way versus the old way of, man, this process is gonna help you be better as a man, as a player, in life. You're gonna learn lessons, and they're hard lessons sometimes, and they're difficult, and you gotta stick with it, and you gotta fight through it, and you gotta work your way up a depth chart, and it's gonna pay you dividends later on. And man, we all, I think, worry a bit that that's a greater challenge now.
How much,
Say one more.
how much tampering did you deal with at Liberty, and how does it change the scenery and go to a bigger school affect how you view that?
I don't, I don't remember really any tampering at Liberty, truthfully, that concerned me. So, I mean, I'm sure if I would've been there, DeMario decided to go, pro, but I'm quite sure somebody would've come after him, this past year, and we had quite a few leave there after I chose to come here and go other places. Whether or not that was just their decision or some people influencing them, I don't really know. I've instructed our guys, we don't do that, and we get, you hear all the things all the time. Well, this player may go in, all right, we'll go watch him. That's what we do, but we don't, we better not be, trying to reach out and trying to influence people's decisions on whether or not they're going in the portal. But, again, I don't know the percentage, but I think there's so many players that are involved in these players now, and I'm not talking about coaches at the college level, but there's a lot of people that are involved that are trying to insert themselves or have been asked to insert themselves. I don't know, but there's a lot of that that's going on.
All right, Coach. Thank you.